sit down.
Now, I picked this T120 up in August last year, and I was very tempted to do an immediate review while I was still sort of in the honeymoon period with the bike, but I decided to hold off. There were already an awful lot of videos out there, first impressions videos by owners and by the motorcycle press, so I thought I'd see what the bike was like to live with first and then do a review. So here we are 6 months on. I've got around 2,000 miles on the clock, not as much as I would like to, but obviously we've hit winter and the periods of time waiting to take the bike out are few and far between. For those of you who don't know, this is the brand new Triumph T120 Bonneville. It's an 1199cc inline water-cooled long-stroke twin. Now, the engine really is as good as everyone says. It's silky smooth, it pumps out around about 80 brake horsepower, and it does have plenty of torque, although not as much as the high torque denomination on the engine would have you believe. Now, the power delivery is quite linear. There are no noticeable power bands anywhere in the rev range, but your main power does come on round about 3,000 revs. And the sweet spot's definitely between 3,000 and 5,000 revs. This is quite a low revving bike, and the revs actually top out at 7,000 revs. The power's delivered by chain through to the back wheel via a 6-speed gearbox. Now, the gearbox is a fairly short shift and it's silky smooth and very positive. Now, because of that long stroke engine, Triumph have had to choose the gear ratios carefully. Around town at 30 miles an hour, there's little point trying to go any higher than 4th gear. The engine won't wear it and you'll soon find yourself on the verge of a stall. Once you get above 40, things get considerably better and you can actually get into top gear, but if you need to accelerate quickly, once again you've got to drop down a cog or two. Now, this might sound bad, but once you get used to the bike and once you realise how those gears are set out, it all makes perfect sense. In the right gear at the right speed, if you wind the throttle back, the bike will try to spit you off the back. This is no tortoise. Now, the clutch is cable operated, and at first I thought this was going to be a bad thing, but this new torque assisted clutch, all I can describe it as is some sort of witchcraft. I do believe it's actually the lightest clutch I've ever experienced on a bike. The suspension's nothing to write home about. It is, to say the least, basic, with just a 4-position adjustment for preload. It does, however, do a pretty good job of things. The ride is compliant and comfortable, and it takes most road surfaces in its stride. It's only when you try to push it hard on bad road surfaces that the handling will actually start to get a bit bent out of shape, and the bike tells you in no uncertain terms that you've been silly. The Pirelli Phantoms are quite tall tyres, and I found the compound to be really sticky in just about every situation, from bone dry to wet or icy. The brakes work fine. I know this was a complaint of the old Bonneville, but Triumph certainly have sorted that out with this new one. If you brake too hard in emergency, the brakes are perfectly capable of overwhelming the front forks. Now, this all comes together with a frame geometry which is absolutely sublime. I've got to say, Triumph have got this absolutely spot on, and the bike actually seems to steer by telepathy. While you're planning your next move, the bike's doing it. When it comes to the aesthetics and the finish of the bike, again, Triumph have really put some effort into this. The paintwork is among the best I've ever seen on any motor vehicle in the last 10 years. It's absolutely glass smooth and flawless. Even the frame is really well finished. There's also literally acres of chrome that really set the styling of the bike off. I will say, however, that there are one or two flaws here and there that are obviously present in the polishing before the chrome plating was put on. And I would say that the guys in the chrome plating plant were not as fastidious as the guys in the paint shop. Fuel economy for a bike this size is excellent. Under normal riding you'll easily get 64-65 miles to the gallon, but I have noticed that on high speed long haul motorway journeys it's even returning up to 74 miles to the gallon. Its small size and easy handling belies the actual heavy weight of this bike. Everything's metal, even down to the switchgear housings, with the only obvious bits of plastic being the front mudguard and the side panels. The weight's unnoticeable on the move, and even while you're moving the bike around on foot and trying to park it, once again it's a really easy bike to manoeuvre around. But it's not all good news. Right from the start there were reports on the internet about a very loud and objectionable squealing from the front brakes under low speed braking. The Bonneville sounds like an overloaded freight train coming into a station when it slows up, and every other road user and pedestrian turn round and stare at you when you pull up. Now this is downright embarrassing when you've just spent best part of £10,000 on a bike, and when I first spoke to the dealer about this, he shrugged his shoulders and made out that I was the only person that had ever reported it. Triumph are well aware of this problem and they say they are still looking for a fix. But I have a feeling that it's an expensive one because they've now been dragging their heels for almost a year, and some owners have got fed up and sold the bikes because of it. And then there's the problem of water in the instruments. Once again, when I reported this to the dealership, they shrugged their shoulders and made out that I was the only person that had ever reported it to them. The salesman then turned and walked away and refused to discuss it any further. Now it's fair to say that I had to jump through fiery hoops to get Triumph to pay attention over this, and the warranty replacement that they provided me with also leaked. Again, Triumph say that they now have a modified instrument binnacle for this bike, but I am still waiting. But the instruments don't seem to be the only place that let water in. I've also noticed recently that the headlamp's steaming up on the inside. I've not even mentioned that to Triumph as yet. And finally there's the wiring loom for the fuel pump. Now in April of 2016 the Department of Transport in the UK identified a problem with the wiring loom for the fuel pump, where in certain situations it was possible for petrol to leak out over live wiring. They ordered Triumph to recall all vehicles that might be affected, which Triumph did at the time. But, and this is the scary bit, Triumph continued to build that faulty and potentially dangerous part into every Bonneville since that date, certainly up till August when I bought my bike. And in December of 2016 they had to issue another recall for all bikes affected. Now there are literally thousands of riders out there that have parted with the hard-earned cash in order to take one of these bikes home, and I think Triumph should have got the finger out and sorted out these issues a lot earlier than they actually have done. As for the dealerships, when I have a problem with a product that I've bought from them, I don't expect to be lied to, and this is something that Triumph should address. I do realise that a new model is likely to encounter some teething troubles, but I feel that the Triumph Bonneville has a few too many teething troubles, and I do feel that Triumph are not doing enough to help the customers out and get these bikes back into the proper condition that they should be in. Now that all sounds very negative and you could be forgiven for thinking that I'm about ready to throw this bike back at Triumph or hand it back to the dealer, but that's not the case. The Bonneville reminds me of an ex-girlfriend that I used to have when I was back in my 20s. She was gorgeous, she had a great body and she was fantastic in bed. She looked and dressed like a supermodel and she made me the envy of all my mates. But what they didn't know is that she had webbed feet, she had the worst halitosis I've ever encountered, and when she laughed it sounded like someone had crossed a donkey with a pig. Now I couldn't put up with her imperfections, so I finished the relationship and then regretted it ever since. And the reason for that is that as you get older you realise that nobody and nothing is perfect. Now the Bonneville is just like that girl. She's drop dead gorgeous and she looks perfect from every angle. There are a few things about her that I don't like, but I think in the fullness of time, I hope they will get sorted out. Her faults aside, she is a bike that inspires pride of ownership, and it makes you feel good just knowing that she's in your garage. And the thing is, she attracts attention, the right kind of attention. Wherever you park it up, someone will always come over and talk to you about it and reminisce about a Bonneville that they used to have. And I really like that, it makes you feel good.